You know what's a childhood hobby that I don't think any of us do enough? Bash our action figures together and make up reasons why our favorite ones would win. Of course, we all know why we don't do that, because our plastic friends are either way too fragile or way too collectible for that. But why don't we keep exploring something in the same spirit? I'm feeling childish today. Why don't we hypothetically smash together our action figures? Let's make superheroes fight each other on this episode of Waytat. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Waytat. I'm your host, William, and I'll be telling you all about the superheroes we're making kiss today. Yep, that's right. They're kissing. And it's still June when I'm writing this, so it's 100% farm-raised, cage-free gay. Unless you're into cages. Regardless, before we get into the show, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out both some old episodes and check out the audio versions wherever you can get your podcasts. Also, check out the video versions if you're listening to the audio version right now. Also, make sure to check out my friends, like Winkashka on Twitch and YouTube. They are fully back to streaming and have reached the amazing 150 follower milestone. So if you could go help them reach the next one, that would be awesome. Also, check out Mystic Luna on their Shopify in the description for all your jewelry and artwork needs at a variety of prices from affordable to luxury options, and also commissions. And also, make sure to follow the ever awesome Captain Cupcakes, who's currently trying to teach me how to draw. To mixed results. But with that, let's go right into the show. Alright, it's time that we get into what this episode is going to be about. And it's going to be kind of a long one today. Because today, we're pitting two of the most iconic superhero teams against each other to see who comes out on top. No, not Section 8, or the Great Lake Avengers, or even X-Stasis. No, it's the Avengers versus the Justice League. Which sounds like it should be hella cool, right? So let's just load up their rosters and get fighting. But I do actually gotta stop you right there. Because their rosters aren't that easy to pinpoint. The Avengers and Justice League have collectively had hundreds, if not thousands of members. So we really need to decide how we want to determine who's going to be fighting on whose side. Do we go chronological, popularity, strongest, alphabetical, reverse alphabetical? And how many people on each side? Well, because it's, a scripted podcast, I already figured this out, so let's just walk through how I determined who's on whose side. At first, I decided just to do their classic original lineups, but that was kind of a problem, because there were originally 7 Justice League members and 5 Avengers, those being Batman, Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter, and the Avengers with Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. So I first decided to add an additional 2 members to the Avengers based on chronological order, and that would be Captain America and Hawkeye. And, this matchup seemed incredibly unfair. Like, sure, I understand that I can fib around power scaling and stuff, but I just look at them. You can already tell where this is going. So I decided to just keep adding chronological team members, roughly, until it seemed about fair. Now, I'll get into the lineup in a few moments when we talk more in depth about the teams, but in the meantime, I discovered something very interesting that I think is going to affect how this fight goes. And that would be the nature of these teams themselves. See, the Justice League started because the original seven are incredibly powerful. In fact, the most powerful in the entire DC universe. They teamed up to fight Starro, or if you're watching the cartoons, the invasion of the White Martians, and in the aftermath they all became close friends and colleagues, who then in turn, because they were so badass, powerful, and the pinnacle of heroism, became an organization from a friend group because they kept picking up people that were just pretty cool to be around. Which creates a group that's formed from the best of the best heroes, but are added on the premise of being cool stand-up people the team wants to hang out with. Which, given that they've had 150 canonical members and many, many more members in their cartoons, non-canonical comics, and fan theories, really shows how far-reaching and friendly they are. The Avengers, meanwhile, aren't formed like this. See, when they initially formed, they formed for similar reasons to the Justice League. Except they weren't the best of the best. They were actually wildly unpopular, dealing with a problem no one else wanted to. Loki, mind-controlling the Hulk. See, they were put together in a team because Marvel had no faith in these characters independently, and they were deeply unpopular at that time, especially compared to the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man. In universe, they didn't last too long as a team, with Captain America joining not too long after their first adventure. And the team split not too long after that, and Cap formed his own Avengers with a distinct lack of blackjack and hookers. And from that moment on, the Avengers served as sort of a task force, where someone, usually Cap or Nick Fury, would have a need for the Avengers and send out invites to join the team, where they'd come together for their unique set of skills in order to redistribute the readership of characters dipping in popularity back where Marvel wants it. I mean, to confront the issue of the day. And while the team doesn't usually consciously disband, these people aren't, close friends. They're experts brought on to deal with a problem, and some of them are pretty good close friends. They are the kind of friends that will absolutely abandon each other sometimes, but But inevitably, the team collapses until the Avengers are needed again. But because of that, the Avengers consider anyone who's ever served with them as an Avenger, and they're on the short list of people to ask. This also means you get all the benefits of being part of the team once you join, even if you leave pretty soon afterwards. Most of those benefits are clout, though. Which is interesting to consider how this will affect the battle, because the Avengers are purpose-made to do a task and have a clear leader and structure, which would be good if they were going up against anyone else. Because the Justice League is a collective project of friends surrounded by people that respect and admire them, that are willing to take direction from the core group. And that core group in each little branch know each other so well, they just innately trust each other and can go and do their own things for the most part without compromising their teamwork. So they both be pretty strong, well-organized teams, assuming you catch the Avengers near the beginning of their Reformation at least. But enough of that. Let's talk about their lineups. And these are big teams. We're going with 15 members each, because that's how long it took for it to feel fair. Now, to avoid this being too long, we're not going to backstories or anything. We're just giving a general blurb about them so you get the idea. Beginning with the Avengers. First of all, we have the Hulk, the gamma-ray generating rage monster that's just as often a problem for the Avengers as he is an asset. As you can see on screen, bottom tier reliability score, but is canonically one of the strongest beings in Marvel. At least the angrier he gets. Next is Thor, the literal actual Norse god of lightning. He's been alive for thousands of years, and despite repeated character development, aka trauma, is still a hothead that gets himself way over his head and always manages to whoop ass out of it. Iron Man, the super intelligent super genius, that might be one of the many top minds of the entire Marvel Universe, / recovering alcoholic, / the most potent wielder of PTSD in his tax bracket, surrounded by a suit of armor that, base model, can stand up against most enemies in the Marvel Universe. And if he isn't wearing the one to face off against the other ones, he can order it express to fly to him. Then is Ant-Man, one of the other greatest minds of Marvel, that has a direct hand in the creation of Ultron, the discoverer of Pym particles, an optimistic nihilist, and a wife-beater that has had 4 superhero identities to identify which part of his downward spiral he's currently on. Wasp, his ex-wife, uses the same Pym particles, cyber-organic wings she installed into her own spine, and bioelectrical blasts from her hands not just serve in the Avengers, but also lead them as one of the most capable, charismatic, loyal members to ever be a part of the team. Also, she's incredibly emotionally mature, resilient, and as a fashion designer with near genius level intellect and can grow to be 60 feet tall. Lesbians, line up on the left, please. Captain America, aka Steve Rogers, is the leader of the team whenever he's not disobeying the orders of the United States government in the name of American values. And if you don't know the difference, how's voting Republican going for you? While he lacks energy attacks, he more than makes up for it by being an incredibly skilled and talented leader with abilities letting him go toe-to-toe with essentially anyone and still look like a badass. Next is Hawkeye, whose stats may not be impressive, but he can split a moving archery target in half from a mile away using a ricochet and shoot bullets down before they reach him. That, and he has a reliable set of non-lethal trick arrows capable of incapacitating even some of the biggest hitters. Then we have Quicksilver, who's been on and off this team more often than he oscillates between being an evil piece of shit bastard and a misunderstood, egotistical gentleman. He's the fastest mutant alive, able to break the sound barrier, and when he really pushes himself, is able to outrun radio waves. His sister, Scarlet Witch, is a time and reality-altering mutant whose primary thing is using this ability to shoot bolts of concentrated entropic misfortune, causing things to fail and people to fuck themselves up. She is also an actual wizard and can cast actual literal chaos magic and uses psychic abilities. Hercules is a pretty clear cut. He's an incredibly strong superhero that never backs down from a fight and would rather take a swing at someone than talk over coffee to bond. He also literally cannot be weaker than another person. That's kind of what his whole deal is. He's always as strong as the strongest being in the universe, at least. Then we have Black Panther, the mystical king of Wakanda that consumes an herb that serves as the base for the same super soldier serum given to Captain America and other super soldiers, and also receives the blessing of the Panther God that protects sub-Saharan Africa. His suit and claws are made of a special kind of vibranium that absorbs energy and stores it in its fibers for him to unleash as kinetic energy at will. Vision, the android with a more convoluted and strange history than most Marvel characters, is not only the team's moral center when he's on the roster, but is also one of their most reliable heavy hitters. You can count on his strength, heat beams, density manipulation, and unlikeliness to run off on some random bullshit. Black Widow, someone you cannot trust to run off on some random bullshit, is an assassin trained in martial arts and given a diluted super soldier serum to let her keep pace with superhumans. She's the team's ideal harasser, able to shut down most superhumans that relied too heavily on their powers or their teammates to cover their ass. And gadgets. Lots of gadgets. Next is Black Knight, a rarely discussed character nowadays that is the current wielder of the Ebony Blade, a magical evil sword that can sever through literally any substance, being, or even energy and concepts. Unfortunately, while Dane is a very smart man that is great at using that sword, he is also cursed to become increasingly unhinged the longer he uses the sword and the more souls it feasts upon. Which is exactly what you want in a leader, which he has led the Avengers several times. And finally is Captain Marvel, one of the strongest women in Marvel Comics with the ability to absorb energy and turn into photonic radiation and blast the fuck out of people with it. So strong, in fact, that Marvel lets her weigh more than 140 pounds, which for Marvel is rather impressive. Averaging out these stats you saw on screen, you should check out the video version, we can see that the Avengers are pretty mid-range. While they don't have the superhero energy bullshit output you'd expect, their team is surprisingly reliable considering the number of loose cannons, mentally unstable people, and literally uncontrollable rage monsters on their team. However, most impressive is their general intelligence and durability levels. Definitely something for the Justice League to be on the lookout for. So now we have the Justice League, beginning with Batman, the billionaire with more PTSD and complex childhood trauma than Tony Stark per dollar, whose only superpower is literally inexhaustible willpower and was absolutely some kind of ability to ignore the laws of biology. Next is Green Lantern, the Hal Jordan version, fighter pilot of the United States Air Force turned into intergalactic paramilitary police force. So, kind of a lateral move. His powers are limited only by his willpower, of which he has just about as much as Batman, making his powers some of the strongest of the humans of the Green Lanterns. Then we have the classic, Superman, whose powers can best be described by what he can't do while guided by the classic tenets of human decency, respect, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Also, the whole American way thing was used once during World War II. That was it. Wonder Woman, created by a man with 2 Dami-Mommy partners, and it shows, is the princess and or queen of the Amazons, and is almost unmatched in every category. Even Superman has a hard time facing her, and never once faced her in a fair fight. She's also allowed to be tall, which, oh my, I have the vapors. Next is the Flash, a speedster so fast he can travel through time, space, and the fabric of reality. He's tied into the Speed Force, a universal energy that causes people that access it to move at incredible speeds and perceive the world as fast or slow as they want. Despite that, Barry has almost 0 close combat skills and is otherwise a lighthearted jokester, first over a horrifying force of nature. Aquaman, the often maligned and insulted member of the team, is basically the Superman of the sea, able to kick his ass underwater, leading an entire empire of undersea people, able to control water and also communicate with and dominate the minds of fish and even disrupt psychic powers. Martian Manhunter, aka the Martian Superman, is a green Martian that came to Earth to flee the destruction of his entire species. He's now one of the most foremost psychics, brawlers, warriors, intellects, and shapeshifters on Earth, only held back by his debilitating fear of fire. Green Arrow is the Justice League's Archer, a hot-headed, hyper-intelligent billionaire that decided instead of a Bat motif, he'd lean into the Robin Hood motif. He's had similar feats to Hawkeye, but despite being less capable of hand-to-hand combat, really likes getting in there. The Atom is DC's shrinker extraordinaire. He's capable of shifting his massive will and discovered a way to scientifically shrink and grow himself to atomic size while still not being a super genius, which makes him more like an actual human scientist and much more impressive. His favorite moves include hiding in someone's brain and holding your dopamine hostage, and riding on ammunition only to deliver the most gnarly of uppercuts when it, quote-unquote, accidentally misses. Next is Hawkman, whose existence and continuity is one of the most confusing pieces of lore I've ever come across, and that's saying something, but is kinda, sorta, alien, maybe cop, maybe Judge Dredd with superhuman abilities, flight, and armor made of nth metal, a substance that can be spiritually bonded to you in order to repel magic, attack intangible and interdimensional beings, and enhance your physiology, or can alternatively be used in anti-gravity technology. Next, we have Green Arrow's partner in the streets and the sheets, Black Canary, who is literally the best close combat expert in DC, having received training from Wildcat, the League of Assassins, and every other close combat that could possibly train both her and Batman, except she beat all of them. And she can also use the Canary's Cry, a shout that can shatter steel beams and bend titanium. She's also very stealthy and very, very scary, but a fun way. Then is Plastic Man, who would be scary in a bad way if not for the fact he's a massive fucking goofball, as you can tell from his suit. He has powers of plasticity so potent he can change shape, color, density, is immune to most, if not all, forms of damage that are not specifically anti-Plastic Man, and even Batman's contingency plan for him is to hope he stays a good guy, and if not, freeze him with liquid nitrogen if push comes to shove, and then leave the planet. Red Tornado is the android creation of Tior Morrow, built to infiltrate the Justice League, who luckily failed spectacularly and is now one of the team's most trustworthy caretakers, trainers, and moral centers. He can control air using the air elemental half of him, and is a fucking robot with the other half. Next is Zatanna, the daughter of Zatara, one of the Dr. Fates. She took on his talents with magic and is probably on the short list of most powerful magic users in the DC universe. Yes, new gods included. Only she has to speak backwards to do it. And finally is Firestorm, a superhero with superpowers so vaguely defined that it looks like it's gibberish. He can basically control the bonds of energy and matter using the Firestorm Matrix, which also just so happens to bind together two humans, giving the one with the stronger and more powerful body the body of Firestorm, and forcing the smarter one into a Gestalt consciousness where their intellect is accessible to the other person, but they can tell them what to do by speaking to them in their mind. A very fucking weird character, but it's cool. Also pretty sure made by Jack Kirby. That sounds like a Jack Kirby thing. Now, when you average out the Justice League stats, you see something very concerning, at least if you're hoping for an Avengers win. Their stats are also mid-range, but are significantly higher. They outmatch the Avengers on every aspect, even their lower powers of combat skills and energy are higher than Marvel's. They're more durable, strong, mobile, smarter, and more reliable. But with that, let's get into the actual fight. For this scenario, we're going to be fighting in a burned out, fucked up city. Why? I don't know. Probably Darkseid or Thanos or Hydra, AIM, someone. I don't fucking know. But as the fight is going on here, we don't have to worry about people peeling off for civilians or anything. And so we'll be focusing on the two sides fighting each other. Both are also aware there's someone out there, so they'll be operating strategically from the beginning. They just don't know who is out there. Both being smart about it, they decide to send out scout teams. For the Justice League, of course, Batman would volunteer to be on the scouting team, since he likes to be a loner and is stealthy. Deciding to let Batman take charge on that, he tells Adam, Green Arrow, Black Canary to come with him. He and Adam are going to go off together, while Green Arrow and Black Canary go a different way. And those two are going to take a tall vantage point in the west, while Batman and Adam move along the center. Meanwhile, the Avengers send out their own scouting team, with Hawkeye and Black Widow taking their own vantage point to the east. Ant-Man and Wasp in the west, moving forward, and then Cap puts Black Panther in charge of the scouting force, staying in the middle rear to help out either side. Since Hawkeye has excellent eyesight, he'll be staying in place while Black Widow, Ant-Man, and Wasp move forward. Meanwhile, Green Arrow and Black Canary will stay put for now, providing Batman with range cover until he and Adam get far enough ahead to be out of their sight before they move up. And doing this, it'll actually be a bit before they meet each other in the field, but given that Hawkeye has superhuman eyesight, he'll be the first to see Black Canary and Green Arrow. Why isn't he seeing Batman? Well, because he's goddamn Batman. But Hawkeye reports back to Black Panther, who, of course, being a generally level-headed person, just tells him to keep an eye on them, and he'll send Ant-Man and Wasp forward to investigate, which will turn out to be a mistake, because at the same time, Green Arrow, using the psychic network of Martian Manhunter, reports that he can't see anything so far and is moving up to the next position. Now, here's the deal. If these two groups came across each other, would cooler heads prevail? Actually, no, because the only reasonable present is Janet. Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Ant-Man are all hotheads, but since they're in tiny mode, Ant-Man is going to get the first shot in. Seeing two superhumans and assuming the worst, he jumps at Black Canary, the closer of the two, and goes for the good old-fashioned size-growing uppercut. What a gentleman. Now, given that Black Canary is tough as hell, and Ant-Man's a wife-beater, this isn't an instant KO, but she is going to be a bit rattled. Janet, seeing that this isn't going to go well, as her ex-husband is not really the best of fighters, calls in Black Panther. Meanwhile, Green Arrow calls out that they're under attack. Black Panther tells Hawkeye to start blasting, and he's on his way. They, of course, also contact Cap, who's going to keep an eye on the situation. Black Widow is still scouting out to the east, missing literally everyone by coincidence. But now we have most of our stealth teams in position to fight each other. Green Arrow, Batman, and Atom ready to go, and Black Canary a bit rattled but okay. And Ant-Man, Black Panther, and a very hesitant Wasp with fire support from Hawkeye. So how does this little skirmish go? Well, as you might imagine, not excellent for the Avengers, because while Pym has some close combat experience and could outstrip Atom, every other person here massively outpaces him. And given that Black Canary is right there, yeah, Ant-Man gets KO'd almost immediately. Black Panther, meanwhile, takes on Batman, which is actually an interesting fight. If it was a normal 1v1, I'd say it's pretty close. Batman is probably the better raw fighter, but Black Panther not only has superpowers, but also a suit that absorbs kinetic energy. They're equally smart and strategic and have good martial arts matches, but, Batman has a few more under his belt. And while Batman's gadgets might be useful, the two of them are so close that I'm just going to say it's a straight 50-50. However, with fire support from Hawkeye, it is in Black Panther's favor. Until Green Arrow decides to target down Hawkeye. Now, these two archers are basically evenly matched. While Clint has better eyesight, Green Arrow has a whole hell of a lot more cover. Meaning this duel comes down to one thing. The same thing every archery duel has come down to throughout human history. No, not whose dong is bigger. Target area. Who's taller and broader? Since both these guys can hit a target from across several city blocks after bouncing off of 3 moving trucks and a bald man's skull, the bigger archer is the bigger target, which, unfortunately for Marvel, means that Hawkeye is going to get taken out. At this point, Black Widow will have changed course to go help, and Cap is informed that shit is going sideways. So Black Widow joins the fight. And was Wasp up to during this? Trying to run interference. See, she can tell that Black Panther and Batman are evenly matched, and while Hawkeye was distracting Green Arrow, she'd need to run interference on Black Canary. Of course, seeing how quickly she turned Ant-Man into origami, Janet's going to avoid getting in a direct fight with her. At least until Black Widow arrives. Now, much like Batman v Black Panther, Black Widow and Black Canary are evenly matched. But the wrinkle in that is Green Arrow and Wasp. Now, you also have probably noticed that I haven't mentioned the Atom. Well, it's because him and Batman haven't found an opportunity for him to get the upper hand, at least until now. Given that he's about evenly matched with Black Panther, he'll use a Batarang to get Atom inside of Black Panther's armor. As Black Panther cuts into the Batarang, Atom will shrink down smaller and smaller until he slips past his costume and into the vibranium. And since he maintains his normal person size strength, when he gets in the right position, he grows just slightly enough and just starts laying out haymakers. Now, given that Atom doesn't have super strength, and Black Panther is super tough, is this going to take him down? No, but if you've ever had to fight a full-grown man while a toddler is punching you in the back of the ballsack, you'd know that's not about the size of the fist, but the fact that it's there. And so quickly, Black Panther, unable to get the Atom while he wails on him and Batman attacking him from the outside, is in deep trouble. Looking around, seeing that his team is in some deep shit, he calls in Cap's part of the team. Now, Captain America is a veteran of World War II, and uses U.S. military tactics as a leader, meaning he believes in the good old American doctrine of shock and awe. If you're unaware of what it is, shock and awe tactics are basically finding the point where enemy is most active or needs to protect the most, and then fucking obliterating it with the fastest moving, heaviest weapons and artillery you have available. In the real world, this means finding command posts, defensive points, and key infrastructure and turning it into dust with howitzers, combat vehicles, and aerial bombardments. That's the shock. And the awe part is following this up with mass waves of corn-fed farm boys and inner-city kids with a chip on their shoulder, about 2 feet taller than your enemy's shoulders, fed on a steady diet of carbs and anti-whatever your ethnicity is propaganda, engaging in close quarters Geneva checklisting. In terms of superheroes, Cap sends out his fast, big hitters first, following up with some of his most dependable fighters. Meaning, when Black Panther calls for help, Cap mobilizes his shock team. Hulk, Thor, Captain Marvel, Hercules, Scarlet Witch, and Iron Man. Now, Captain Marvel, Scarlet Witch, and Iron Man are sent out because they can both fly very fast and are also very destructive when they need to be. Thor and Hercules are both very strong heavy hitters, but also Cap is smart enough to know he can't really stop two meathead, honor-bound warriors from joining the fight. So it's less telling them to go and more letting go of the reins. Hulk, though, that's just launching an ICBM. But you can't control when it happens. It just happens. So he's on the shock team because, I mean, what else are you going to fucking do with the Hulk? And hearing Fortunate Son playing and seeing two superhumans jumping in and Thor flying in, Batman sends out the red alert. They need backup. Now, the Justice League aren't as organized, but they do have a first responder group, who are the people usually able to get there not only fast enough to help, but also big enough ass kickers to solve the problem before everyone else gets there. And those would be Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Firestorm. Now, at this point is when stuff starts going fucking wacky. First of all, we're going to peel off Hulk and Superman. Why? Because they're problems. But also because I'd rather not grab a name out of the hat for both of them to pummel before the other side realizes to sick them on each other. Let's just assume that they can tell this motherfucker looks like Doomsday and knows he's Superman's deal. Now, between these two, who will win? I mean, look, if you walked around the equator 3 times, took a drop of water out of the ocean until it was empty, placed a piece of paper on the ground, and then refilled the ocean, you'd have a stack of paper to the moon before the fanboys would finish that debate. And that's only about half the time that they would probably be fighting. Narratively, they're both there to be beat sticks when they're in a team up, so that's what they're here for. Taking on the big stuff while everyone else takes on everything else. Now, who's everyone else targeting? Well, despite the fact that Diana is extremely smart, she is also a hothead, and Hercules is right there. And sure, he doesn't look a ton like Hercules of their world, he looks similar enough that he is clearly a Hercules. And when she calls him out, he fucking goes with it. So she'd go after him, which is fine considering. Meanwhile, getting the gist from Cap, Iron Man is going to focus down on thinning out the enemy stealth team, starting with Batman. And Captain Marvel will for sure see the energy signatures coming off of Firestorm and try to keep him busy, leaving Thor and Wanda to take down Canary and Green Arrow. But, this leaves one person out. Flash. And he's going to absolutely do his Quicksilver moment from the movies. Except, he can also see that this will go terribly unless he starts running support. So, that's what he does, making sure his teammates are never out of position or in too much harm's way on the ground. Unfortunately, he can only do so much about a 4-on-2, meaning that yes, the first Leaguers go down as Wasp and Scarlet Witch take out Green Arrow with some well-timed bad luck, and Black Canary gets sent by Black Widow, capitalizing on Thor's attacks, leaving Iron Man, Firestorm, Captain Marvel, and Scarlet Witch to struggle for air superiority. And at this point, both sides are in need of a backup. The Avengers need to push the Justice League just that little bit to break, and the League needs to free up Flash and get some muscle and air power in. Which means it's time to call in their next waves. Seeing as really all they need right now is their support, the Justice League support elements come in as well. Meaning their frontliners of Green Lantern, Aquaman, Hawkman, and Red Tornado are here to even the odds. While Martian Manhunter, Plastic Man, and Zatanna cover the support. And not because they're B-rate. No, they're powerhouses, but they're strong enough to cover everyone else's ass. Meanwhile, America's ass, Vision, Quicksilver, and Black Knight come in for the sidelines, ready to kick ass and chew cum. And since he's the fastest, Quicksilver will make their big entrance for them as Vision carries Cap and Knight in. And Cap immediately starts directing now that he has eyes on the battlefield and knows what's going on. Quicksilver take out that speedster, Tony, Thor, Vision, Carol get control of the air and cover Wanda, Wasp get that guy away from T'Challa, everyone else meet me at the bat. Then he airdrops in, drops the line, Avengers assemble, and roll credits. And now we kind of have 2 fights happening at once here. One on the ground, one in the air. The Justice League, for their credit, doesn't take this lying down. Seeing their plan, seeing that, well, they have one speedster, is to just let the Flash handle him, and the flying heroes will take on the Avengers flyers. And try to get Zatanna and Hawkman in fighting range with their spellcaster, who's, pretty obvious, her name is Scarlet Witch. Meaning Green Lantern, Red Tornado, and Martian Manhunter need to make that happen. Also, Carol and Firestorm are still fighting in the background, and it kind of looks like two black holes orbiting each other. It's troubling. On the street, meanwhile, Aquaman and Wonder Woman are going to take on Hercules, take him out, and then help out Bats while Bats runs with Plastic Man to take down Cap, Black Knight, and the Black Widow. Oh, and then rescue Adam while Black Panther lets Wasp into his suit to hunt him down. Easier said than done since he can become subatomic. First things first, though, Flash versus Quicksilver. And look, could I be nice and put them at the same level? Maybe. But they're not at the same level. At his fastest, Quicksilver can breach the light barrier, moving faster than radio wave. But Barry breaches the reality barrier. So Quicksilver arrives, ready to do his whole time in a bottle routine, when suddenly, and without warning, Flash appears and fucking RKO's his skull into the pavement. Now, luckily, Wanda isn't here to see that, but Flash is now free from any sort of containment, which means Hercules gets triple teamed while already on the ropes and goes down. Not a good moment to be an Avenger. Up in the sky, the core strategies butt heads, with Thor getting to close on Hawkman and getting cucked by Green Lantern. Iron Man and Vision, meanwhile, hold their ground, ready to fight, when suddenly, Martian Manhunter is on top of Tony, putting his hand through his faceplate. Vision reacts quickly, punching Martian back and getting him away from Tony. Tony turns his attention away as Wanda fires a hex bolt at Hawkman, and nothing happens. Except Hawkman setting his shoulder, turning off his body cam, and teaching Wanda what ACAB means. Since Nth Metal is largely immune to sorcery, Iron Man pulls out his multitasking card, and luckily can get Hawkman to disengage before Scarlet Witch is taken out for good. But she is fully on the ropes. Red Tornado swoops in to take care of Iron Man, and Zatanna sneaks in to take a pot shot at the Scarlet Witch. Back on the ground, working together, Black Panther and Wasp have managed to KO Adam. Mostly by letting Wasp hit his suit from the inside and then smacking against Adam's head, basically magnifying one of her single attacks by some astronomical number. Just in time to help out too, since Flash rushes in and clobbers Black Panther one, which sends him flying back. Wonder Woman and Aquaman rush over to help Batman, making an even 4v4. Well, except for, that time that Cap threw his shield vaguely in Batman's direction and lost sight of it for a split second. Yeah, that's Plastic Man now. And Cap is restrained, so it's a 3v3 with one of the heavy hitters out of the running. Batman squares up with Black Widow. Black Knight takes aim at Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and Wasp gets ready to try to hit a target moving faster than light. And this is when something truly astounding happens. Just as they're lining up their shot, a photon beam blasts from behind, sending Tornado and Zatanna rocketing away. Danvers, knowing her teammates were outnumbered, is using her combat experience over Firestorm, positioning herself to fire at him and their opponents at the same time. And she shouts to Iron Man on the comms that they need to mix up their opponents. Iron Man, taking a second to think, gets everyone in a different direction. He'll distract Lantern, Thor will take on Hawkman, and Scarlet Witch just start fucking him up. And Vision can keep fighting the Martian, which is a bad matchup, but they don't really know that yet, and they don't really have any other choice. Firstly, as Tornado moves in, Scarlet Witch throws him to the ground, and when Zatanna casts a spell, it's the last one she gets to cast the whole fight, as Scarlet Witch alters her mind to be unable to speak, before also slamming her into the ground. And Zatanna does not stand up. Now, if you're wondering why she wasn't doing this earlier, I assume you haven't read many of the comics that she's in, because she's very powerful, but not exceptionally stable, and doesn't think things through too often. which turns into a problem if her loved ones are hurt. Speaking of which, Martian Manhunter takes down Vision easily, and she loses her absolute fucking mind. Until Martian Manhunter, seeing the immense psychic energy coming off of her, speeds over and mind links, telling his team that they're comfortably offline and to cover him because this lady is having a meltdown. Red Tornado turns his attention to Iron Man again. And then Black Panther gets back in the fight in probably the flashiest way. You know how vibranium absorbs kinetic energy? Yeah, what's the kinetic energy of a 200-pound man going Mach 50 million directly into your chest? So Black Panther arrives and jumps from the shadows, surprising the Flash and walloping him with the force of 5 entire suns. The Flash ragdolls into the sky to the next zip code. Will he be back? Unclear, but we'll see how long that they can fight for. Black Panther now gives the orders, telling the ground team to focus on getting to Cap and getting him back in the fight. Which means Panther and Bats are back at it again. Black Knight runs over to help Cap, and Wasp and Black Widow attempt to hold back 2 Immortal Warrior Monarchs with more magic items than a 12th level D&D party. Yeah, that sounds like it'll go well. And to give her credit, maybe it doesn't go as bad as it sounds, but Black Widow and Wasp are not on the same level as Aquaman or Wonder Woman. However, sacrificing being conscious for the rest of the fight is enough for Black Knight to, honestly, probably just cut Plastic Man in half. Now it's fucking Plastic Man, so that doesn't kill him or take him out of the fight, but murderer's intent is there for what that's worth. Now we have the end of the ground brawl, with shieldless Cap taking on Aquaman, Black Knight dueling Wonder Woman, and Black Panther and Batman going at it again, which, unfortunately, is a bad matchup for all of those Avengers. But jumping back into the air, Martian Manhunter manages to subdue Scarlet Witch, stopping her from flipping her shit. And at this point, the Avengers have lost. Wonder Woman gets airborne again, and Thor is already evenly matched with Hawkman. Iron Man is fighting 2 opponents, and only Captain Marvel stays fighting. However, since they are superheroes, here's our cop-out. After calming Scarlet Witch down, the Avengers at the last moment realize mistakes were made, and they chill out. The League, not being vengeful assholes, do the same. Everyone gets up, dusts each other off, maybe kiss a little, and they start working together. And this time, being a lot more careful about randomly starting fights. And there you have it. Truthfully, I kind of figured that the Justice League would come out on top. Come on, they're the fucking Justice League. But I will say, the Avengers gave them a run for their money for a bit there. And sure, this might make the Marvel Universe seem underpowered, but keep in mind, this is just one of many possible teams. And not even their most iconic rosters. But hey, why don't you make a video as well? Or leave a comment about how you think it would go. Let's talk about all the ways our action figures can be mushed together. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you have opinions, improvements, corrections, and anything else you want to talk about, comment below or email me at waytatpods@gmail.com. That is waytatpods@gmail.com. And remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. And follow my podcast feed for audio versions, and come back next time when we see what their biggest foes would come out on top. Have a good night, don't murder, have fun, and remember, once an Avenger, always an Avenger. This has been Why Are You Talking About This? I've been your host, William. Good night.